Hi there, I'm Chuck Green with the Thinking Clearly channel. We've all been watching the wild events going on in the world. We clearly are at a significant point of change in the world order. Today we see Israel and Iran fighting, Russia fighting Ukraine. It's all escalating quickly, and it's not just between them or just their problem. It's everybody's problem. In both conflicts, the final outcomes will have big impacts on the entire world. It will impact the world's security and the world order. This is one of those big moments of the world events our great-grandchildren are going to learn about in school. We are living through significant historical times. Look, every Friday in Tehran, the mullahs lead prayers, echoing the same refrain every week: death to America, death to Israel. This isn't new, it's policy, it's doctrine. It's been going on for 46 years, and now Iran is closer than ever to building a nuclear weapon. America has a history-changing decision to make. The question is, will we stand beside Israel and confront the growing nuclear threat from Iran, or are we going to let isolationism rule? If you believe we have a moral obligation to not only stand with our ally Israel, but also help protect the world from this extremist regime getting a nuke, as far as I'm concerned, we must stand with Israel. Period. There's just absolutely no question about it. Let's be clear. Iran is not just another authoritarian regime. It is the ideological heartbeat of modern Islamist terrorism. Wiping out Israel is not just a political goal for the Ayatollahs, but part of their religious doctrine. This is what makes them getting nukes so extremely dangerous. Let's not forget just who they are and what they've already done. We're talking about a regime that funds and arms Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, militias in Iraq, and the Houthis in Yemen. They have American blood on their hands. It's not enough. If that's not enough, I want you to remember the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut in 1983. I remember it well. Iran is responsible for 241 Marine deaths, 18 Navy deaths, and 3 Army deaths in that bombing. This is some of the blood this immoral regime of Iran has on their hands. Chris Cuomo put out an incredible video on News Nation explaining who Iran is and why we must help Israel eliminate their nuclear threat. This is what he described Iran as being. Iran is head of the snake, the fountainhead of Islamist terror that targets not just Israel, but Americans. Look, I don't always agree with Chris. I agree sometimes and I don't agree other times. But this video really spells it out well. And I think it's really an excellent video. I really think it's worth your time. So let's take a look at a few minutes of this video.
They asked for it. Don't forget who the other party is in this, okay? You know the expression, check yourself before you wreck yourself? The idea of any kind of acknowledgement or any kind of half-stepping when it comes to Iran is crazy. Look, we'll talk about the timing, the tactics, the what, if any, plan there is involving the U.S. or what happens next. But we've already seen in the reaction here at home, we're already in danger. Just watch the reaction to the attack on this horrible Islamist regime, and you see the problem. I'm not calling for war. America doesn't have an appetite for it. I don't know that there's a victory that can come in it, frankly, unless you want to occupy and overthrow. And I don't think that's where the president's head is. Certainly hasn't been in the past. It's not what this is about. It's not about wanting war. It's about recognizing the reality of who these people are. This regime, not the Iranian people. Condemning Israel's attacks, fine. But what would be better? Calling Israel the reckless and genocidal regime? How? When Iran has been actively trying to get as many people to kill the Jews and Americans as they can for years. Do these people here in power in America, groups with like real membership and real backing, do you really intend on taking the side of terrorists again? I told you that the Hamas support was not a one-off. There are groups committed to fundamentalist extreme ideas that may come from lots of different sources and economic and philosophical and political realities, but they all meet and intersect at the same place, destroying our democracy and culture. This is why I tell the parties to chill with the break-it bombast as a cell for disruption. I get it, disruption is the flavor of the moment, but you have to be careful with that kind of talk. Change is good. Destroying what we are and what we have is not. Pay attention to the groups funded by the Shanghai communist businessman Neville Singham. I told you about him earlier this week. Look him up, Singham. And I'm not just talking about rogue radicals. We have legit lawmakers saying things that must be taken seriously. Representative Rashida Tlaib supporting Iran and calling Israel rogue and genocidal? Almost as bad are the people in her party who sit back and say nothing. Now is not the time. Where is AOC? Where are you, Representative? You are usually desperate for attention. Why so quiet? Are you worried your fellow socialists who don't think Israel has a right to exist will be upset if you speak truth about Iran being an absolute enemy? If you're a feminist, how do you not decry the fact that Iran would jail you for how you speak, for how you dress, that they would slaughter your LGBTQ plus constituents? Now is not the time for silence or acquiescence, nor certainly any perverse obeisance to a terror organization again. Even Senator Bernie Sanders, I'm surprised, calling Israel's attack illegal, says it hurts negotiations. What negotiations? Isn't he on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee? You really think Iran is going to ever let people check their abilities? They are, I know, the senator knows this, but he's not living it with his politics. They want to kill Bernie as a Jew, as an American, as an infidel. They want to kill him. They're not going to tell you the truth. They're not going to keep a deal. They never have. Tim Walz wanted to be president and vice president of the United States. Really wants to say that we've surrendered moral authority by supporting Israel after targeting Iran, and that China may have the high moral ground? Are you nuts? They have 1 million Muslim ethnic minorities, the Uyghurs, in camps in China. What are you doing? I know that you think it's a way to attack Trump, but you seem crazy when you play politics, when there is an active terror threat against us. And don't say, yeah, no, only now because of what Israel did. No. As far as we know at this point, Israel says it had to do it. We don't know why. We'll try to find out more tonight. We'll wait for the president to tell us more. But we already know what matters. Iran has done terrible things to us. One of their agents is sitting in a U.S. prison right now for trying to kill Trump. They tried to interfere in our elections. They launched ballistic missile attacks against our troops in the Middle East. They seized our naval boat. You want to support something in Iran? Good. Support revolution. Don't support the despotic regime. Support the people who are desperate and who are oppressed and subjugated. Rally for them to fight for their freedom against a toxic Islamist horde that has committed countless human rights abuses against their own people. Call for that. I'm not saying America should go to war. It's not my place to make that case. It's my place to test that case. But you remember Mahsa Amini, the 22-year-old woman who was arrested, beaten, tortured, and murdered by the Iranian morality police? Oxymorons of all oxymorons. Why? For not wearing a headscarf. This is why AOC and other women and advocates and allies should not be quiet about what this is. This is not Israel, beating up on somebody. Iranians went into the streets. We covered it here at News Nation a lot, more than most. They protested, and the regime brutally clamped down. There is no freedom of speech. They executed several protesters. You know it's a crime to be gay in Iran, right? You know the punishment is flogging and execution. This is who you want to say is a victim of Israel. You know that when they first came in, this regime, they used children, some as young as 9, to run through minefields to clear the ground for their invading armies into Iraq. They said they were giving the kids keys to paradise because martyrdom brings you such blessings. This is not about God. This is about being psychotic, is what this kind of extreme Islamism is. This is a regime that spends countless dollars exporting terror across the Middle East and the globe, including backing Hamas, even though there's Sunni-Shia conflict, on October 7th. And that's who you want to say needs support. And for those on the right saying it's not our fight, I hear you. Again, I don't know that there's any will in America to put boots on the ground in the Middle East, even against an obvious enemy, because what's the upside? You can't kill an idea. It's very hard. You got to change it. And I think the president disagrees with you. I think that he does believe that we should be invested in this situation in a way some of you don't, even in his party. Yes, he said he didn't want Israel attacking Iran, but let's be honest. The president says a lot of things. And now we understand he may have been part of some, plan to allow cover for Israel to surprise Iran. We'll talk about it more tonight. And he's certainly supporting Israel now, going farther than Rubio and others did last night, claiming the U.S. was totally looped in on them. I don't know what happens next. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know if there is a plan. And I don't know if this latest phase makes things better or worse. But I know this. Iran is absolutely the head of the snake when it comes to Islamist terror targeting Americans. And anyone who doesn't get that is part of the problem.
Chris did a really good job with this video. He really explained why we need to help Israel and just how dangerous Iran is. He also really helped make the case about why we must help, and then calling out some, but not all, the ignorant resistance on both sides of our political spectrum, mostly from the extremes, but not only. Here's what I think the extremes of American politics don't understand on both sides, the far left and the far right. Look, we all understand most Americans want peace. They don't want war, but not at the price of weakness or lack of moral will. I really like how Chris called out the Democrats, who are really not living up to their obligations. While parts of the Democratic Party cower behind slogans, refuse to name the name of the enemy, or even sympathize with terror groups, we ordinary Americans know better. Where is the leadership in the Democratic Party? Where is the moral spine? It's bad enough how badly they ran the election, yet today they're nowhere to be seen. Instead of standing with our allies, we hear silence, or worse, appeasement. Instead of condemning Iranian terror, you have some members like Rep. Rashida Tlaib defending the terror groups backed by Iran. It's outrageous. AOC has spent more energy criticizing Israel than confronting the Iranian regime. She has not said one word against her fellow squad member about backing Iran. On top of that, I find totally unbelievable that you have a bipartisan group, but mostly Democrats in Congress, who want to rush through a bill tying Trump's hands, not allowing him to take action to help Israel eliminate the mortal threat that Iran presents unless Congress agrees. This includes using the bunker busters against the Fordo site. I understand they hate Trump, and with good reason, but this is not the issue or the time to tie his hands. This is a time where the Democrats should be leading by taking the high moral ground. The Democrats should be seen helping to defend America, its principles, and its moral obligations. Instead, we hear absolutely nothing from the so-called leadership. Democrats who still believe in moral clarity must speak out, because the progressive far left does not represent the mainstream in America. Now let's look at the right. The MAGA world is eating itself. Donald Trump, who brought the Abraham Accords, knows Iran is a threat. He is very clear that no way can Iran ever be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. He's made that very clear in the last few days, very publicly. But his base, they're at war with themselves. Marjorie Taylor Greene calls pro-Israel Republicans disgusting, once again displaying her disgusting anti-Semitism. While the complete fool and isolationist Tucker Carlson naively asks why we should care about Iranian nukes at all. What? This civil war in the GOP is paralyzing them at a moment that requires boldness. To those principled conservatives, mostly those who don't support Trump, even if some did vote for Trump, the Reaganites, neocon realists, national security hawks, now is the time to get loud. Because an isolationist America is a weaker America. A nuclear Iran is a danger. Not only to Israel or Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states, but to America and the world. And this cannot be allowed. Why in the world do you think we have not heard anything from other Mideast leaders in the last week? Because they're supporting Israel and the United States. That's why. But the fool Tucker Carlson doesn't get why we should care about a nuclear Iran. What a moron. Israel has launched an incredibly surgical campaign against Iran's nuclear sites, but it can't finish the job alone. The U.S. has the unique capability, the bunker busters, and the strategic bombers to carry them. A 30,000-ton bomb that can hit twice as deep as any other bomb in existence. It's either us or the job doesn't get done. I want to be extremely clear about this. This is not about occupation. Nobody's asking for boots on the ground. This isn't Iraq, so this isn't Afghanistan. This is about a 1 or 2 strike mission to eliminate the core infrastructure that the Iranian terror regime has deep inside a mountain. By eliminating or even causing significant damage to it, ends its path to a nuclear weapon, at least for a long time. That's why the bunker busters are needed. And yes, we must also consider targeting the criminal leadership of Iran, the Ayatollah. Decapitation of the regime is not just a military move, it's a moral move to release the public from the yoke of these psychopaths. We may or may not get there, but it's on the table. It would shatter the spine of the IRGC. It would embolden the Iranian citizens, who, if you saw some videos from Iranians in the last few days, have been screaming in public to kill the Ayatollah. They've been making videos and publicly showing these things. They want him gone. It would liberate a region held hostage by a horrible theocracy. Those of us in the center, Democrats who still believe in freedom, Republicans who still believe in courage, must speak louder than the extremes. We need to pressure our leaders to act. This is one chance we have for significant change we've not had in almost 50 years since this regime came to power. We need to reject the false choice between endless war and cowardly appeasement. Neither of these are who America is, or is an American interest in any way. And we need to remind the world the United States, when led by principle, does not abandon its allies and acts with moral clarity in doing what is necessary for world peace. I know Russia and Turkey have been rattle-sabering, but we have to ignore that. Nobody's going after Turkey, even though he said something about that. And Russia, they're not going to do anything. I don't really think they're going to do anything more to Ukraine than they already have, except for continue to bomb and hurt civilians. Another criminal regime. We don't want war. We want peace. There are at times it takes action to ensure that peace. When a once-in-several-generation opportunity comes along to remove the threat from a criminal regime that's been holding over the world's heads a nuclear threat for 46 years, we must act. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to this video. I started this channel during the election and haven't done much since. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do with this channel. I have figured that out now, and this is the first video of the new era, shall we say. Again, I ask you to subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you soon on the next video. Again, thank you for watching.